Good morning. Well, good afternoon, Jennifer Taylor, and good morning, Jason Mankey from California.
Thank
Yes,
you for having
welcome.
me. Thank you for having me again. This is my favorite time of year, and I'm just delighted to be chatting with you all again.
Well, I'm so glad you could come back in, and we're going to be talking about Yule traditions. Jason, I know you wrote a book on that, so I can't wait to pick your brain. Um, but Jennifer, do we want to go ahead and set the stage with some song today and see what comes through?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I invite in exactly the beings that will hold this space for us today and prepare our energies and bring through the messages and the frequencies that are in alignment with our topics today. And Samael will no doubt have some words to share with us as well.
It's always so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Is there a master recording of all of them?
I don't have anything that has everything. In fact, we've been thinking about doing some kind of Patreon like thing where we go through and I take out all of the different songs from all of the episodes and just have them on there and available. And then maybe take out all of the various Samael messages as
Mhm.
well, like extract all those and have those there because trying to go back and find anything or listen to it's like there's so much to sift through. But as of right now, there's nothing where I can like access all of them because they're all in all the various podcasts
Right.
for like 30 seasons.
But I could just listen to all of that on a loop.
Oh, thank you.
It's just I don't know, it's just so beautiful and haunting and lovely.
I am really grateful and honored to be able to bring it through. It's so interesting because I never have any idea what's going to come through or what it's going to sound like. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, that's where we went. All right. I really appreciate your compliments. It really means a lot.
I do have words from Samael that came through with your song, if you don't mind for me to share them. It says, many of you ask, in which direction shall I go to meet energies that will benefit my path? Where will I find the direction of my ancestors and guides? Where shall I set my feet? The seasons, Umshallah, seek out the changing of the seasons, the turn and flow from one environment to the next. Tune yourself to the cycle of the divine manifestations of your realm, falling leaves, drifting snow, the rising of the sun and stars. Celebrate as your ancestors celebrated, and find your first steps towards home. What do you know? Samael is actually topical this week.
I think we're getting more in sync lately with that.
Do you think it only took 2 years for him to figure out what a podcast was?
I think
He's
it's
like,
yeah, I think it's the new guides that are coming in and
I think it is
helping us to
too.
line things up. It's interesting what and I don't always get visuals of things that came through, but at the end in the song, I was creating it what looked like a crystal ball to me, like out in front of probably in the emotional layer maybe of the my aura or spiritual layer, no, probably spiritual layer of my aura and my heart chakra. And I created this crystal ball and then at the end sent it out and it blew it out and it just continued and went out and out and out. It's almost like the message with Samael was like bringing us more in touch with what's happening here in a physical realm. And Michael was sending through the opposite, balancing us in the opposite direction at the same time because that
Yes,
vibration was so, so high. I wasn't even sure I could be in my body. And the messages from Samael were very much
rounding.
going
Yes,
down and grounding and connecting, which is so interesting how they always seem to balance each other out in a way.
not funny. Well, I know a lot of us probably still celebrating Samhain. I just got back from being at Hallowed Homecoming for 4 days. I'm actually shocked have voice today because yesterday I didn't. And I'm headed back out the door to another Samhain celebration, Mystic Fire, in a short period of time. But we're also turning our eyes forward towards Yule. And that's why we have Jason with us today to talk about Yule. So, Jason, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Couple of years ago during the pandemic, and I think it was during the pandemic, I wrote a book called Llewellyn's Little Book of Yule. And Llewellyn had been doing this series called Little Books. And they're not meant to be the final word on anything because they are very small. And for me, who is very verbose with his writing, it was very challenging to write a little book about Yule, which is my favorite season. But there had been a little book of Halloween, and now there's a little book of Day of the Dead. So there's been a lot of holidays. And I wanted to celebrate not just the pagan, modern pagan Yule. Yule is also a synonym for Christmas and has been used that way for 1,000 years. I wanted to celebrate the entire season, like the big season from
Yes.
about American Thanksgiving through the first week of January. So I wanted to do like every holiday that people celebrate during that time, every gift
Wow.
giver, every little weird tradition that we do, every TV show that we grew up watching. I wanted to jam it all into 40,000 words, and I tried my best, and I think it turned out okay. But yeah, but there's a lot to cover because I mean, I think this is, for a lot of people in the world, this is the time of year. This is the big time of year. This is the only
Yeah.
time of year you're really allowed to be magical. I mean, certainly as witches and magical folks, we are magical all the time, and Halloween, Samhain is really important. But if you think about the bigger picture, most people aren't magical until Christmas, right? Oh, it's a
Right.
Christmas miracle. Oh, some fat guy came down my chimney and left me gifts. I mean, there's a whole industrial complex, about about magic and this particular time of year. And I wanted to put all of that in one particular book. So that's my
Yeah.
book.
I think it's really fascinating. I love the point that you make there, where it's a time when the word magic is used so prolifically. The magic of Christmas, the magic of the holiday season. It's even printed on things that you can buy that talk about the magic of it. You're right. It's like the only season when people who are of all different sorts of faiths openly talk about the magic of the season.
And then you've got magical creatures, you have Tomty, elves, Krampuses, there are Christmas witches, there are Yule cats. I mean, there's a Yule goat. I mean, there's everything. And I think America, especially, it's really sad that we don't honor a lot of these other traditions that you find, especially in parts of Europe. And we've just sort of boiled everything down to only Santa Claus. But yeah, there's this whole menagerie of really magical creatures out there that are a part of the holiday.
I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are big Krampus fans.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, can you for people who are listening who aren't familiar with Krampus or have maybe heard of Krampus but don't really know the background? Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
So sometimes Krampus is called the Christmas Devil, and it's a good name for Krampus. He's got horns. He's very animal-like. I wouldn't say that he's always like a goat, but he's very animal-like in how he looks, very demonic in the face. There's always a long tongue if you see pictures of Krampus because he's very, very sexual. And Krampus, there's a lot of argument about the origins of the Krampus. You'll read things like, the Krampus is related to Norse paganism. That theory's from a video game and a book, actually, and that's not true at all. The thing about Krampus is we really don't know where he comes from, and he sort of shows up during this period right after the Reformation in Europe at the Catholic Church. And you have people in places like Germany, Croatia, which is where he was really kind of at the height of his powers, all through that kind of mountainy range in there in Europe. And he was an assistant to the baby Jesus who had replaced gift giver Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, because they didn't want Christian saints doing things. So you have all of a sudden you have Krampus around, and then Santa comes back and St. Nicholas comes back because he's hard to put a good old bearded white man down. And all of a sudden on St. Nicholas Day, which is the 6th, on the 5th, Krampus would come out and he would check on the kids the night before to make sure that they were behaving. And children were terrified of Krampus because he carried a switch and he would beat you on the ass with the switch. And he had a basket on his back, and it was said that if you were a bad child, he would whisk you to hell. So
Wow.
Krampus would come in and check. And now, especially in remote towns, in Germany, in the eastern part of Germany, there are Krampus things where there are Krampus runs, where people in local villages they work all year on their Krampus costumes and they run through small towns and they beat people while they're running through towns. It can be quite violent. But yeah,
Wow.
there's barricades. Like, don't cross the barricade unless you want to be, slapped on the wrist by Krampus. You
You
know,
Wow.
know,
and yeah,
there are people locally here who have Krampus markets and things and parades, and they love it.
yeah, like he's really come back the last 20 years. There's been this whole new love of interest in the Krampus. I think it's because our holidays are so stale and there's no danger in our holidays and Krampus is danger. Right? There's a threat of physical violence, but there's also sex with Krampus. If you look at turn of the century postcards from Europe that have Krampus, that tongue is really saying something. And sometimes you'll see him with a housewife and his tongue will be out. And yeah, it's a wink and a nod. And then there are female Krampuses too, who are making the same look at dad, also with the long tongue out. Yeah, so dangerous, fun. And a lot of cities
Oh,
now have Krampus runs in their cities, which are really more like bar hops than anything else, where everyone dresses up in a Krampus costume and goes out and drinks. But yeah,
Oh my God. And I saw my first Yule cat meme show up last night on social media. Something about the Yule cat eating you?
yes, again, a lot of these Christmas figures, if you're not well behaved, they will come in and extract revenge on you. You'll be punished. And one of the things about Santa Claus is in the 19th century, we gave him those duties as well, right? Like, the crystal ball, I'm looking, making a list, checking it twice, and all that. But in Europe, there was this real difference between St. Nicholas, the gift giver, and those who were going to check up on the children and punish the children. There was a lot of good cop, bad cop, and we've lost that. Now everybody just gets stuff. The Krampus makes sure, that the kids are well behaved. He's teaching them important life lessons, right? The
Right.
only thing we have now in the United States is that snitch elf on a shelf. I hate that thing. I hate that thing.
Yeah. I know a lot of parents are like, oh no, it's Elf on a Shelf time. I have to think of something to do. A friend of mine always makes her Elf on a Shelf go fishing in the toilet, which I always found really interesting.
I just think that thing's creepy looking, to be
It
honest.
is. It
It is
is.
scary.
It is. Absolutely. So Yule is the whole Yule season is your favorite. Okay, I want to find out if you have information on this because I can never pronounce this character's name.
Mm.
It's in Wales. They have a horse head and they
The
go
Mary
house
Lloyd.
to. Yes.
Yes.
Can you say it again for me, please, so I can
I'm
finally get
probably
this
saying
right?
it wrong. You need to get Christopher Hughes or Mara Starling on your show just to make sure. But the Mary Lloyd,
Yes. Don't you have to tell a joke?
it will come to. So it's a group of people are operating this skeleton horse, and there's usually an entourage with the skeleton horse. And traditionally, it would go door to door, and it would ask riddles at the door, and you had to answer the riddles. And if you didn't answer the riddles, the horse would come in and make a fuss, and you had to serve the horse food and drink. Basically, you had to get everybody drunk, right? That's a lot of these traditions are about going door to door and having alcohol. And it's another one of those traditions that no one is exactly sure where it came from. We know it's popular in Wales. It's also was popular on the Isle of Man,
Yes.
which is between Britain and Ireland. So
Mhm.
there might be some Celtic influence there. Some people think it might be connected to the idea of the animals that Jesus kind of was born next to in the manger, like donkeys and things, and all they had was this horse, so they just kind of went with the horse. And it also has a lot in common with wassailing traditions, which again we're going to go door to door and we're going to do something. We're going to dress up perhaps or sing you a song or enact a play on your doorstep, and then we're going to come in and get drink and food.
Very cool.
But again, it's a very open question. And one of the things about the Mary Lloyd too is that season is really long. It can start as early as November and kind of go into mid-January. So it wasn't really just like one day, like, oh, you have to do this Christmas Eve, or you have to do this on Krampus night or St. Nicholas Day. You could do this all the time because the holidays were season and not just one day. That was especially true with Christmas for a long time. Like today, we have no idea what the 12 days of Christmas are. The 12 days of Christmas are Christmas through Epiphany. And once you got to Christmas night, you could get drunk as much as you wanted for those 12 days. And then when you got to January 6th, you had to go back to church. So it was a fine time for a while, the 12 days of Christmas, But again, the Mary Lloyd you could do before and after too.
Well, that seems a little stressful that there's literally like a 3-month time period where a horse could show up at your house demanding alcohol on any of those days. You have to really keep a good stockpile going.
It's true. Well, I mean, the whole thing with wassailing traditions, that was sort of the rule. But then people would only really come by once. In
Right.
a lot of ways, one writer said it was a social safety valve. So what you had when with those traditions, you had people who had less, poor people, going to the homes of the rich and the rich were expected to play along. That was a part of the social contract that you were going to give people food and drink. It's almost like we've taken advantage of you for the entire year. Here's the one night we're going to be nice to you.
Interesting.
It's fascinating. Now, I have questions about Boxing Day too. Is Boxing Day, if I know there's a tradition, at least in Scotland, and I think it's all through Britain and Ireland about first footers.
You've got me there. You've
Okay.
got me there.
There is a tradition that says the first person through your door, yeah, it must be New Year, that the first person through your door, you're supposed to find a tall, dark, good-looking man. And so people like the new year will happen and then people will literally be like, don't let anybody through the front door until we have Uncle Jerry or whoever
Mhm.
lined up for this. And then he comes in and supposedly if you've got a tall, dark-haired, good-looking man coming in, supposed to bring good luck for the whole rest of the year. And I believe the tradition is called first footing, that his is the first foot in the door.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that it is Scotland, but I think it's Scotland, but I could be completely wrong. But that's another thing. Like New Year's Day today in the United States, it's like we go out New Year's Eve and get drunk and watch college football the next day. But for a lot of people, that was a super magical day. What you ate determined like how the rest of the year would be. I mean, in the United States, black eyed peas are a big tradition, especially started amongst black folks. That was what you would eat. You would have black eyed peas. Thought is maybe it was like an evil eye protection. It would like bounce things back. Some people have also linked the black eyed peas to money. So that's what you would eat because that would give you good luck throughout the entire year. And yeah,
Yeah.
people used to do a lot of divination on New Year's Eve. There's stories of people dropping lead into water, like heating up the lead, dropping it into water, interpreting what the images were in the lead to see what was going to happen the rest of the year. As I said, the United States, we screw up these holidays and we make them boring and less dangerous because, when you're melting lead in your home, that is kind of a danger.
Maybe you could go with candle wax, instead of the pure
In
lead.
the book, actually, I do have like one with candle wax instead because my wife's like, you can do that in the house. I'm not letting you melt lead as an experiment for your book.
There was another one that I was looking up, the haunted inn where I volunteer. We kept finding pennies in the yard. And so I went down a rabbit hole of penny traditions. And there was one that I think was Ireland where you keep a penny over your door frame for the year. And then on New Year's Day, you take it outside and throw the old penny over your shoulder and then put a new penny over your doorframe. And I guess the pennies that were thrown over your shoulder would be given to people to buy bread. And then you were setting yourself up for the next year. So this tradition was supposed to keep food flowing through the house and into the community. And I thought that was cool too.
There's a lot of traditions with doorways. There's something really magical about letting somebody into your house. There's another Yuletide tradition, usually done on New Year's Day, called chalking the door, where you would sort of write in chalk what you wanted around the frame of your door, probably borrowed from the Jewish community, but that was a thing people did. It was eventually very popular amongst Catholics for a while. And
Oh,
as a
wow.
witch, you can do it with runes or just symbols or whatever. And it, goes away after 3 or 4 days. And depending on how you do it, most people won't even really realize that it's there. But it's to, again, give you good luck throughout the entire year.
Now,
Interesting.
do you have any idea why do we stuff Santa down a chimney?
Just a way into the house,
Not just
right?
because the doors are locked,
The
right?
doors are locked, right? So here's a way into the house. And when that tradition was being put together, everyone had a chimney because if you didn't, you would be cold. And Santa in his modern form really is a kind of a tradition of the Northeast. You have you had the Dutch, not Pennsylvania Dutch, but the Dutch in New York,
Yeah.
New Amsterdam, who brought St. Nicholas in. And then over a period of time, there's sort of a change to St. Nicholas where he kind of takes this more rough and rugged form. If you look at St. Nicholas pictures, from the Netherlands around the holidays, he's much more tall and saintly, not the portly man that we have. An American, though, because we're on the frontier, and we're burly and strong, we had to make that figure a little more rustic, which is what happens with St. Nicholas to Santa Claus. But that was the way in to the house. And also, the idea of the flying reindeer, you would land on the roof, so you'd have to go down the chimney.
Very cool. What is the weirdest one tradition you came across, or the most unusual, or one that just really stuck in your head as, okay, this is memorable when you were doing your research?
There's an area in Spain, Catalan, and the people there are not really Spanish, and they have their own language. Barcelona is a part of this region, and for whatever reason, there's a lot of pooping traditions in this region. And there's a figure there called the Cagner, which, can I cuss on this show? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. We click the little box that says adult content, so go for it.
Like the name literally translates as the shitter. That's
Oh
and
boy.
it's a peasant boy, and he's dropping his pants, and like on the ground is a fresh deuce, right? There he's pooped on the ground, and people include him in manger scenes.
Oh wow.
Wait,
And
That's an
what?
interesting intersection.
there's a couple of theories about the Cagner and what it could mean. Some people say it's an ancient pagan tradition and this is fertilizer. That's tough because it's not in the historical record early enough to probably be a pre-Christian tradition, but who knows? One of the other theories is that this is a Christian idea that none shall know the time or place of Jesus's return. So Jesus could come back, of course, while you're in the crapper. So, you have to be aware at all times. And then one of the more, I think this is probably the more plausible one, is the peasant boy has no gifts to give. So the only thing that he has to give is his poop, which can be then used as fertilizer. But there are malls with like two-story Cagners pooping in the mall.
Oh
And
my goodness.
then the figure is also kind of reinterpreted now. Like you have popes who are in the pooping motion. I'm sure there, past presidents, our current president, other famous figures all squatting and taking a dump. The same place too, there is a pooping log, and that's really kind of what its name is, the pooping log.
The
And
pooping log.
Wait.
like
The log poops, or it's where you go to poop?
the log poops. So
Uh,
it's kind of
oh.
like Elf in a Shelf. Like you put the log out early in the holiday season, and then because it's a very simple craft to make, the log grows bigger throughout the holiday season. So like, mom and dad put it out one week, the next week there's a bigger one out, and then the third week there's an even bigger one out, and then on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, exactly when really depends on the place. I mean, it's like, in the United States, everything is Christmas Day. In Europe, it can be lots of other days. Parents heat up sticks on the stove, and the kids beat the little pooping log with the sticks. And there's like a little cape that he wears. And after they're done beating him, they like lift up the cape, and there are like presents and candy there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Do
so
you swear
confused.
to me you did not just make that up?
No, these are real things. I'm not creative enough to make these things up.
The, how do they know? Can't help it. How do they know the log is pooping? Are
That's
there accessories
Well, the
that show,
point, the cape is at the bottom of the log, right?
right?
So clearly, this is all coming out of the log's ass. So yeah, he's definitely pooping.
So is he then pooping out the presents?
Yes,
So
yes,
you sort of beat him until he poops himself, and
yeah,
those are the presents.
yeah. If you're constipated, just have somebody beat you with hot sticks, and you'll be pooping up a storm.
Yeah, I think it's
You'll manage.
interesting the sticks have to be hot. Like,
It
wouldn't it
is.
work okay to, you would think that just beating them with the sticks, but I guess the hot part is the secret.
Traditions are traditions,
Yeah.
and they don't always have to make sense to us. But
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
because
sure there was
real
some
fun.
reason we're just not
we
getting.
just don't know it. That that may be the most creative thing ever spoken on this podcast. I'm
Yeah.
just picturing people getting ready for the holidays. Oh, look, the four gradations of pooping log are here in this box. Their capes. That's so wild.
Yeah. Again, American Christmas and Yuletide is boring versus what we get in other places with extra holidays and more excitement and just more interesting figures. When you
Yeah.
Yeah.
like when people come to my house, they're like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Well, that's the Krampus, and that's Bafana, the Christmas witch. That's why she's there, and all these other things." And they're like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was real." And I'm like, "Yeah, Christmas is really awesome if you know where to look." And they're like, "Why is there a little pooping guy up there in your nativity scene?" And I'm like, "Because he's the Cagner and he should be there." Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a witch with a nativity scene. In my defense, I found one where all of the like figures from the Bible look like trees.
Oh,
So to me, it's very pagan, and Jesus
yeah.
is really the son and stuff, you know. But yeah, but I also have my
Oh, I'd
pooper
love to
too.
see that.
Yeah, I have some pictures of it online. I can send you
I
some.
have to say,
Be
my daughter
awesome.
would love the pooping log. I think kids nowadays, the idea of anything pooping is like hilarious. And so I can see how that would be a big thing. Like, and then as seeing the log grow, it's like there is more and more stuff in there. And the idea that it comes out as poop, I think, would be a very popular thing. I feel like that is actually something that could take off in the US. When you think about it, it's very pinata. It's like you beat the pinata and you get the candy. And there's definitely that sort of connection idea there.
That's really good. I'd never thought about that before, but a lot of times some of these traditions can be related and we don't really see them as being related. There's a lot of Mardi Gras traditions, which happens in what, March,
Yeah.
February, that actually come from the holiday season. Like the whole king cake is something that people used to do during the holiday season, and then it kind of got transferred over there in New Orleans to Mardi Gras season.
With
So,
the little baby in the cake.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, because you
Oh
have a
my
whole
goodness.
like there have been babies and cakes with Christmas traditions, and then you have things like the Bean King where there's a bean in the cake. Other places it might be a coin in the cake, but it says that somebody has to do something or be a certain way or is going to have good fortune for the year. Trick or treating to me is probably more related to wassailing traditions than
Yeah.
anything else. And trick or treating also used to be done during Thanksgiving. So all these holidays just kind of butt up against each other and take things from each other. And it really wasn't until the 20th century where we decided, oh, you're going to go here. We're going to slot you in here. Yep, this is Halloween, you get this. Thanksgiving, you just get food and you get to be Christmas, and Christmas, you get most of everything. We're just going to spoil you entirely. But, there was a lot of sort of back and forth about where these traditions went for a long time. The trick-or-treating one is one of my favorite ones because there's stories of people on Thanksgiving Day dressed up, kids dressed up in costumes, and they would go door to door businesses and ask for candy. And
Really?
eventually, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was so popular in New York that the kids stopped doing that and then started doing it really on Halloween. And then there's, traditions of dressing up and going out during Christmas time to get candy or food or alcohol or whatever it is.
Right.
We don't see that whole lot anymore, but there are parts of Canada where it still happens. Newfoundland where they do the mumming on Christmas Eve. And if you ever look up pictures of the mummers there, they wear clothes of people in their household that don't fit them. They might put them on backwards, pillowcases over their heads, and then they go door to door and people invite them inside the house and you get to ask these people questions because you're supposed to try to figure out who they are. And if you can't figure out who they are, you get alcohol. Everything always tends to go back to alcohol. Yeah, but again, that's a, dressing up tradition that's not at Halloween. That's at a different time of
Yes.
year. And in Philadelphia, we still have the giant mummers parade, January
Yes.
6th or so, which was later, of course, kind of added to Mardi Gras in New
Right.
Orleans, that whole style of dressing.
Oh my gosh. So cool. I'm so glad for you to talk about all these things because I think especially for those of us who may have been raised in a household that celebrates traditional American Christmas, sometimes the only links you really think about to Yule are like the Yule log and the greenery. There's such a wealth of things to draw on for the whole season. It's fantastic.
I think that this season is the most pagan of all the seasons. There's a lot of things that really date to pagan antiquity when it comes to the holidays, and were really prevalent, especially before the 20th century. The Roman Saturnalia was the biggest influence on the holiday season. The Roman Saturnalia was 3, 5, or 7 days, depending on who was the emperor and how much work they wanted done. But there was a long tradition of, and Rome was built on slavery, and I hate saying the word slavery because slave because it just is an awful word, the idea that anybody could do that. But in the Roman Empire, if you were a slave during Saturnalia, you got the best wine and the best meat, and there was this sort of role reversal of the household where the slaves controlled the house and the people who were the owners of the slaves were subservient for this period of time. And I like to refer to that as misrule. And you can see examples of this throughout Europe, really up until about the mid 19th century, where people would go out and they would expect their betters financially to give them things. And that all comes from the Saturnalia. In the United States, pre-Civil War, again, I don't, there's nothing to glamorize about slavery in the South during that period of time, but they basically reenacted the same traditions of Saturnalia, where people who were slaves were free sort of for that day and got good food and drink on Christmas. They just sort of moved the holiday a little bit.
I had no idea. Oh my
And
goodness.
Yeah.
So
and this
interesting.
stays here for a very long time. But in the start of the 19th century, you've got this emerging middle class. The poor people are going door to door asking for things, and the middle class is like, yeah, I'd love to participate. I don't really have that kind of money, right?
Right.
And these groups that would go out were often mobs looking to be drunk, and it was unruly. And people were trying to put a stop to that, especially in new urban areas. Things had
Right.
changed a lot. Before it was 80% rural, 20% city, and now by the beginning of the 20th century, that's kind of reversed. And there's this effort to turn Christmas into more of a children's holiday
Yes.
with Santa Claus. We're going to give gifts. We've got capitalism now in full force. We're making things. You should buy them and give them to other people. You shouldn't go door to door so much and ask for alcohol, right? But again, all of that is from the Roman Saturnalia, and there's, as I said, this long tradition of upsetting the social order, which was what
Right.
Saturnalia was about. Long tradition of cross-dressing on the Saturnalia, which survived into the Christian years in some places where people would dress up and they felt free to do whatever they wanted to do. You could gamble on Christmas when you couldn't gamble before. It was a time for vice because that's what people got away with in the Roman Empire for so long. And then a lot
Right.
of the trappings too of modern Christmas, the pine boughs, they decorated that way at the Saturnalia. They didn't use whole trees. That's probably a more modern invention coming out of the 1300s, 1400s. But they did use, pine boughs. They decorated with holly. Anything that bloomed during the winter is or was green during the winter, that's what you would want to decorate with. And they
Right.
also sang rowdy carols. And there was another holiday that was very close to Saturnalia called the January Calends. The Romans liked to celebrate the start of every month, and the calends were a particular joyous time of year. You decorated the same way that you did for Saturnalia, so you kind of took the season a little bit longer, and there was a long tradition of giving out gifts on the calends. And that was adopted by Christians with Christmas. And for a long time, people gave out Christmas presents on New Year's Day, and they've still called them Christmas presents up until about the 20th century. Again, it varies from space to space, country to country, region to region, but it wasn't just Christmas. You could get presents on Christmas, you could get them on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, and King on 12th night, which is January 5th, or on Epiphany, January 6th. As I told you before, I can ramble about this stuff
I
for hours
love it
because
though.
I really do love it so much, and I don't think a lot of people have ever really researched Christmas other than I'm gonna
No.
share this meme, and a lot of those memes are wrong. To me, the real truth's even more fascinating than anything else.
It
Yeah.
is. It's really fascinating. I know we were talking about the magic of this whole season. What are some of the most whimsical things that you've learned about?
Wow, that's good because, one of the things I love about it is that it's less whimsical than
Gotcha.
most people think it is, right? Because we think that it's like, a holiday for kids. And up
Yeah.
until the 19th century, that really wasn't the case so much. Kids got presents for sure, but it was also a holiday for adults, to go out and do things that they normally couldn't get away with. I just think there is a whimsy in it, there's this expectation of the holiday season. The expectation of, maybe I'm going to get this thing that I want, or something miraculous can happen, or the expectation that I'm going to visit grandpa and grandma, and I love grandpa and grandma so much. And that's just absent the rest of the year. Like this feeling of hope for fun things coming up. And I think we feel that all throughout December, or perhaps we're just exhausted throughout December.
When you think about it, you're going into December, you're going into the shortest days, the coldest days a lot of times. It's dark. People are hoping they have enough to make it until spring when there's some foods coming back. Are there any interesting foods associated with this time of year that popped up for you when you were looking into this?
There's a long history of various kinds of alcohol. There's a Saturnalia wine, and we actually have the recipe for that. And it doesn't sound good at all. I don't want to add saffron to my wine, and you have to
Oh,
heat up the
wow.
wine. But, that was something that people drank, and we actually have a recipe for it. And we don't have a ton of old recipes from
Right.
like the Roman era. So that's a kind of a cool one. There's, of course, wassail, which could be different from place to place. There's lamb's wool, which is a whipped beer with apple chunks in it. It's very frothy and sort of an alternative to wassail in England especially. But that was one of those drinks that was there. Um, really was just a time of abundance.
Right.
There's two things that happen in the winter, which makes Yule really interesting. The first is that we all talked about that a second ago, was the scarcity, right? There's this a scary time of year if the harvest has been bad, if the weather gets really, really awful. You could be cut off from everybody around you. There's a whole lot of foreboding that can go into this time of year. But then the second part is, this is the best time of year because there's more of everything than there is any other time. So I've harvested the grain and I've made the beer. I've harvested the grapes and I've made the wine. We have plenty of booze now. We didn't have booze before. We culled the herd, and it's cold outside, so the meat isn't going to go bad. We have all this meat that we're going to have to eat. Oh, how terrible for us, right? Uh, so a lot of these traditions are built around being able to eat all of those foods, whether it's especially like a pork dinner or beef or whatever it is that people are raising. So it's either scarce or too much, right? And Yule, for the most part, has always celebrated the too much. It's
Yes.
always really been a time for excess.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So, can you repeat the name of the book so if people now that they've gotten to hear it can look it up and get themselves a copy?
Llewellyn's Little Book of Yule.
Llewellyn's Little Book of Yule. It's awesome.
And it is little, it'll take you like a day to read.
That
But I
seems
mean,
like a perfect gift for people that you just don't know what to give. What an interesting sort of thing to give people around this time. It has to be a fun read, learning about all of these different traditions and ideas, and certainly a conversation starter when groups of people are getting together and you're thinking, oh, what are we going to talk about? Well, let me tell you about the pooping log. Like,
I think it's really fun. I love reading the reviews on like Amazon for it, because there are people like, this book is too Christian, because I mean a lot of these traditions are Christian, but have nothing to do with Jesus. They just happen to be contemporary to that particular period of time. And then there are other people like, this book is too Wiccan, which I don't know how that anybody thinks that, because there's no Wiccan ceremonies in it. It's like
right.
You can't make anybody happy with what you write anymore, apparently.
Sounds like an awesome gift. Just get yourself a stack of this book. And then whenever you're going to somebody's house for a holiday get together, what a fantastic thing, like Jen said, to read aloud and pass around. Or if you are having a holiday get together, to be like, what can I put in here that's going to be memorable beyond everybody's taking a Ziploc bag of cookies home?
Right.
I know I'm going to go get a copy because Dark Flower Collective, which is a little local group that I run for new pagans, we are doing a Yule cookie exchange. And now I'm like, let's see if we could pull out a horse skeleton, baby, and really make this lit, you know?
No recipes for those in there, sadly.
Oh my God. That
There's a
sounds
there's
awesome.
a Bush du Noel in there.
There's a what?
Bush du Noel. It's a
Oh, bush to do well.
Pushed.
it's really just a tree, like a cake that looks
Yeah.
like a tree. And it's very popular in France, and that's the traditional holiday dessert. But it's very difficult to make because you use a sponge cake and then you have to roll the cake.
Oh,
So it's in layers, and it is very, very tricky to do.
the
Oh,
French know
wow.
how to do things to pastry that none of the rest of us can do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, oh my God,
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Oh, I'm all in the holiday spirit. Now I still have Samhain stuff to go to. I'm
I
like,
know.
I'm ready to roll now, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get the book and to learn more about these different traditions. And I like the idea of really sitting and thinking about like the different ones that we don't know the history, we don't know where it came from, but sitting with what is the meaning, the deeper meaning for the people that are celebrating these things. What is it that it brings that they're needing from their lives? There's so many different rich layers to it. There's the fun, superficial layer of, oh my gosh, I've never heard of anything. This stuff is so wild and so different than what we're used to, and just the discovery. But then the opportunity to look deeper into all of these different traditions and the areas that they came from. And yeah, that sounds like a really lovely thing to be contemplating as the days get shorter and we are needing to sit inside near the fire and have a good book and something to contemplate.
And I know for witches especially, there's like this sadness that Samhain is over. And as we're recording this, we're in that season where Yule and Samhain are kind of really butting up against each other, which is really fascinating. But for a long time, traditions around Yule were about telling ghost stories. And it was about things that go bump in the dark, kind of like Halloween is. And I also think that if we think about a lot of Yule traditions in families, we're really paying homage to our dead all during this period in a way that we probably don't during the rest of the year. I know that for me, Yule, Thanksgiving, whatever the holiday is this time of year, I'm just trying to recreate my grandparents' house.
Yeah,
And and so that is paying homage to them, and I feel closer to them at this time of year, I think, than any other time of the year because of those memories we have as children. So in a way, Yule is like an extended Samhain period because all of these holidays actually really like each other and grew up together, and our ancestors are certainly here during Yuletide.
Yeah, I
absolutely.
love that connection that you made. I think, like you said, in the United States, we tend to compartmentalize everything in so many ways. And the idea that there is really just a flow, like a continuous flow and intermingling of all of these times and how they all flow from one into the next. And that connection of the ancestors and how strong it is as an undercurrent in all of Yule and all of our traditions. And I think that it's part of why it, for a lot of people, the Yule time can be a really hard time and the hardest time of the year for people who have lost loved ones or had traumas related to family and tradition and not having it, because it really does. There is that part that I think a lot of times people don't think about, but that connection to the dead or to loss, and the idea of being able to weave that in more consciously and look for the connections, maybe if they don't have them in the embodied people around them, looking for those connections of ancestors and reaching into that at a time when Yeah, usually we would think about that more of as a Samhain thing, but to reach into that around Yule is adds another really rich layer to that too, to consciously bring in that connection. I love
A,
that.
a lot of our ancestors didn't celebrate Samhain or even Halloween, but I'll
Right.
tell you what they did celebrate. They did celebrate the Yule season, whether it was Christmas or New
Absolutely.
Year's Day or whatever else. One last little sad story though is every I don't throw away anything that I've ever gotten for the holiday season. It just kind of accumulates in the big tubs of holiday stuff that we have. So I always have like stockings for my cats. And every year I come across my cat's stocking, my cat who is deceased, and it's very sad to have to see that stocking, but it's also joyful because, I get to relive in my mind those moments with her. Not that she ever woke up Christmas morning excited to go through her stocking. She was a cat, but she did like running through the paper, right? But again, it is a tough time, but I also think some of the memories are really good, and the memories remind us why we love the people that we've lost so much.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Connection doesn't end. And just a reminder that we think about the veil being a lot thinner around Samhain, but the veil is really always much thinner than we think about or realize, and that we can still invite them in and share the time together.
I mean, you think about Dickens with the ghosts coming back at the time of Christmas because Scrooge needs to do deep spiritual work, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're entering this period of sacred darkness. And I love that idea that here it comes, here's the turning of the year. This is an incredibly moving and spiritual time when a lot of the things you have to turn externally for, you're inside gathered around the hearth together, or in some cases, you're gathering with yourself and saying, when we start to see spring come, who do I want to emerge from the ground as at that time? And let me work on that here. It can be wild and fun, and we're pulling out the recipes of our ancestors and inviting them to have a place at our table. But we're also thinking of what legacy we want to leave behind and how we want to step back out once the days start to lengthen again.
It is. It's a reflective time of year. It's a celebratory time of year. It really has kind of everything, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I think that there are things to be attracted to this time of year.
Yeah. Oh, this is
Absolutely.
wonderful. Jason, thank you so much. I'm so excited to get this book now
Thank you
and
for
to,
letting me ramble for an hour about
oh my God, yes. I don't think I've ever really sat down and said, what will my Yule traditions be? I just sort of plucked the things I thought had been buried in sort of our modern. And now I'm like, you know what? These traditions all started somewhere. Let me sit down and put together what my Yule will look like. And I can do that right now. So,
Yeah.
thank you both. It's always fun being on your show. It's
oh,
really
thank
great.
you. Jen,
So
would you
nice to
like
reconnect.
oh
Yes,
my
go
God,
ahead.
absolutely. Jen, are you going to sing us something on the other side? Maybe a little festive something. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, let's bring something in to sort of integrate. I'm feeling integration, like a need for kind of integration. We've been in so many different places and so many different ideas and things that, yeah, I feel a real integration song coming on.
Yes.
We'll see. I don't have any idea what it's going to sound like, but we'll see. And we'll
All
see what
right.
Samael might want to send us off with as well. Oh,
That feels very nice and pulled together. I have just a little short follow up, I guess it is, from Samael. The season of bells is upon us. Tie them to your doors, your handles, your harnesses, and your hair. Ring them and let your laughter peal along. Clear out the old and herald the arrival of the new. The doors swing wide, the candles are lit. The beloved dead seek us with arms outstretched. The wheel turns, but remember that it is all one wheel. Let your wildness and compassion roam, and remember to give the world your own unique magic. Well,
Wow.
thank you so much, Jason, for being on with us today. I am fired up for Yule. I'm going to create a Foul season right now in that it's the liminal space between the two, and we'll just put them all both on the bread like peanut butter and jelly together and go from here. Um,
Hollow
I
Thanksmith.
yeah,
There you go.
ah, I saw an ornament the other day that said "'Tis the season to be heathen," and I liked that.
Yes, this is very much.
Heathen's greetings, yes. Um, But thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, thank you for listening. Get ready to start some new traditions of your own or bring back some that you might spread some that you might not have been familiar with. And if I find a good source for a pooping boy that you can put in your nativity scene, I will let you guys know.
And we will have links to Jason's book in the show notes as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jason, we look forward to talking to you again at some point.
It's a pleasure. I really love talking to you both. You two do a great job on this show. Just a joy to be here. So thank you so
Oh, thank you. Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you. All right, folks. Until next week, stay safe and walk in love.